It's Hi, Sue. So today I'm really excited to welcome Sue Fortin and Suzanne Fortin to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for coming, Suzanne. I mean, I know we did try this last week, didn't we? But I just got
Yeah,
completely ruined by the tech.
technology. Yeah.
I'm not a very
It's
techy
lovely to
person.
be here.
Thank you very much for coming, especially as it's so hot outside.
Yeah,
Oh, it's been unbearable, hasn't it, the last few days?
I know, definitely. Don't like to complain about it, but yeah, it has
I know
got
it'll
to
be raining
peak.
next week and we'll all be moaning about that.
Yeah.
So today I want to talk to you about your book. So I'm currently listening to actually your latest one that came out in April. So the Berlin Midwife
Oh, yeah, the
and
Secret Midwife Berlin. Yeah.
Secret Midwife. I'm so
That's,
rubbish. Don't even remember my own titles. But it's really, really wonderful. I'm really enjoying listening to it. Um,
oh, thank you.
so where did you get the idea of that from?
Well, it was a big melting pot of ideas, as they usually are. So I'd come
Yeah.
to the end of my previous contract, and they said, "Oh, what other ideas have you got?" And I was like, "I don't know if I've got any." So we did have a little chat, and they said, "Oh, we like Europe, World War Two, staying the war, and obviously strong female character leads. That's kind of what I base all my historicals on."
Yeah.
Um, so we narrowed it down to a few cities, and Berlin was one that was mentioned. And I didn't really know much about Berlin at all, so I went off and did some research, and I was trying to think how I could make the female lead character be relatable and have her own story without going into the big picture of the war, but to look more at the individual stories. And obviously, midwifery, children, babies, it's all really resonate with a lot of women. So I thought, yeah, I'll go down that route. So
Yes,
that's how I
because
come to the midwife.
It's so good. And I think the thing is one of a woman's most vulnerable times is obviously when you're pregnant and you're about to give birth,
Yeah,
and how terrifying it must be to be in a situation like the characters in your book. Um,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Because I didn't
terrifying.
realize, yeah, obviously most of my stories have been set in France during the war, and so this was the first one that's kind of ventured out of France or the UK. So I was really also quite fascinated in how British people were perceived leading up to the war and how it changed, because my nan used to collect postcards, because years ago they used to be um, quite, really decorative, the postcards, and she had them in this big album. And we were looking through them, and one of the postcards was, I think it might have been from her auntie or something like that. And she had been in Germany, and I think it
Oh,
was
wow.
in 35 or 34. And she'd put on the back that they're having a lovely time, and the Germans were so friendly. And I thought, well, looking back, as I know what Germany
Yes.
was, the war and everything, it really sort of stuck out in my mind, that comment about everyone being so friendly. And so the more I kind of looked into Germany leading up to the war, the more I found out about it, and how it's quite a, sort of a hot spot to go to, really. It's very
Yeah.
cosmopolitan and everything. So I kind of wanted to uh, blend that into the story as well. And that's why my character was a British midwife, married to a German, everything going wonderful until war broke out.
I thought that was really clever, actually. It gave it a very different aspect to it as well.
Mm,
You've got the not just her story of how she's helping other people, but also how she's coping with this and how, I mean, how hard that must have been. You're an ally married to the enemy suddenly. It's all
yes,
very odd. Yeah.
yes.
Gosh.
And then she chose to stay in Germany. So then people viewed her differently. She was
Yeah.
the enemy, and they were very suspicious of her. And it's only because she was married to a German officer that she had a bit of leeway. But like a lot of, because people did choose to stay there when war broke out. It wasn't, particularly unique. But then they would have to report to the police station, have certain papers, and go through a lot. Their privileges were more and more restricted as it got further into the war. So although it wasn't as bad as like the Jewish community, but she was feeling that kind of restriction as well. And that's kind of how she sort of empathized with what some of the pregnant women were having to deal with, and that's what drove her on, because she felt the same to begin with.
Quite incredible. That must have taken a huge amount of research, though. Had you been to Berlin before? You hadn't, you said?
No,
Oh,
no.
wow.
I still haven't.
Mind you, I think I mean, that's terrifying. But it's also part of writing historical fiction, isn't it? You're sort of also writing about a time period that you obviously don't recognize because you didn't live in it yourself. So it's part of, I think, the excitement of writing historical fiction is the research.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was quite difficult because there wasn't any real story that I could sort of hone in on. It was just a lot of general observations that I found from lots of different places.
Yeah.
And, some of it I just imagined what it must be like, and you sort of get the facts, and then, as a writer, you sort of build around it, don't you? And
Yes,
make it
absolutely.
fit your story. And
Make it come to
so
life, don't you? Yeah.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So lovely. I'm absolutely loving it. But I also hadn't realized you've got another thriller out in June, 23rd of June, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Because you
yeah.
had a massive, massive bestseller. Now, is it uh, the Girl Who Lied?
The Girl Who Lied, yeah.
So I
Yeah, so
remember it being
that's
so massive. It was number one on
yeah,
Amazon. I mean,
yeah.
USA State, an international best. I mean, for a long, long time, that was really high up in the charts.
Yes, yeah. I think that, it just kind of hit the market at the right time, really. And a lot of these
Wonderful.
things, well, for me, a lot of it is luck. And I just think, it's the right book at the right time. I don't, it had a great cover, which was a bit different to some of the other covers out there at the time. And I think it just caught people's attention.
Yeah.
And then it's like the snowball effect, and then your publisher gets behind it, which also
I mean,
helps.
that's
And it's also
every author's dream, isn't it?
yeah, but it's also in the days when 99p really, really worked for books.
Yeah.
That if a Kindle book was at 99p, it really sort of zoomed it up the charts. So that was a big factor as well. So yeah, I'd started off just my very first book was a contemporary romance, but I've always liked to read like thrillers and mysteries and things like that. So the next book I wrote was, I didn't know what it was at the time, but now I know it's a romantic suspense because it had those, and that's kind of just where it all sort of developed from. And I'd say romantic suspense is always where my heart is, and
Yeah.
all my stories, whether they're my thriller ones or my historical ones, I just feel they're the same. They've all have the same elements. They have family, they have relationship in them, and they have like an element of danger and mystery. It's just different
That's
sort
fabulous,
of
isn't it?
settings, if you like.
I mean, you can sort of live through that person's sort of life in the book, from the comfort and safety of your own home. It's
Yes, yeah,
the
yeah.
perfect
I
way
know,
to do
because
it.
you read some of them, and you think, "Oh God, thank goodness, this is just a book."
Yes. Very
Yeah.
involved.
So yeah,
So
so I do
this,
enjoy
yeah.
writing them, but I think they have kind of changed. I mean, because I think the Galilei Lad was 9 or 10 years ago now.
Was
Um,
it?
so yeah, so my latest one, and a lot of the reviews are saying there's a lot more emotion in it than they expected, and I think that's probably just where my style of writing has changed. As you get older and things
Yeah.
develop and that, and yeah, I like to put that in it. So I don't think it's not like a thriller with the big twist or anything like that. I'm kind of more delving into the character's psychology, I guess, without getting too heavy. So yeah, I really enjoyed writing the last one because it's kind of I'm hoping that the reader will have different feelings as the book goes on for each character, rather than just waiting for like a twist and a twist and a
Yeah.
twist. So yeah.
No, it sounds wonderful because it's a new mother, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
which
yeah.
was like
So
a sort of a scary sort of time. You're getting to
yeah,
figure it all out.
so they
Um,
yes, and they've adopted this child. So it's also about a highly competent woman in the workplace who has always wanted to have a baby, had infertility problems, so has adopted a baby, and now finds that be, being a mum is very different to running an office in
yeah.
simple terms. So, and she's wondering if she's doing the right thing, because there's no staff handbook to look at or anything like that. So it's kind of looking at that as well, and dynamics of the other women in the story.
And she lives in quite a remote area, doesn't she?
Yes, yeah, in Suffolk. Just
So
yeah,
it's,
because I
I
wanted to
think there's
kind
a
of,
lot of like the eerie sort of the things that make you think, oh, shut my curtains, but I'll check outside first. What's happening?
yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. So it just kind of, because almost like the setting, it can be like another character sometimes, can't it?
Yes,
Like
yeah,
the small
very
town,
much.
the seaside, that type of thing. So the remote farmhouse is like another character in the book, and yeah, quite a few of the early reviews have picked up on that. Like it's like a claustrophobic kind of feeling, which are
It looks
very
brilliant. I was
complimented by.
reading the blurb before and I thought, oh, I will definitely read this one. This looks really, really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll scare myself. But yeah, because again,
it's not scary.
but I think the thing is, it's sort of with books, I think as I find with a reader, I like to find something about one of the characters at least that resonates with me, think, oh,
Mm,
would I do this? Or it makes you actually think, oh gosh, she's done that. Well, I don't know if I do that, or maybe I would do that. It's not just reading the
yes,
words on a page, it's actually getting
yeah,
involved with the characters in your head,
yeah.
which makes it so
Well,
so much of an escapist thing, I think.
exactly. And without giving anything away, there is a big dilemma in midpoint in this, in my thriller. And it's a question that I think would have like a big debate about. People would have different views about it, and there's no right or wrong answer to this
Brilliant.
dilemma. So
Yeah.
it's just really what this character would do.
Oh, I love that. So, they're coming out quite sort of soon after each other. So you're obviously very busy with
Yes,
your writing.
yes.
I
It
presume you're
wasn't
obviously
intended.
writing the next book now because that's how it works.
Yeah, so so the next book is a historical, because that the Secret Midwife of Berlin is the first in a series, but standalone. So it's about three sisters.
Lovely.
So that was the first sister. So the next one is about the middle sister, and yeah, so I've just done the structural edits on that. So yeah, I think today I'm due the copy edits. So yeah, and I've already started writing the third sister's book. So,
Oh,
but
wow.
that's just had to be put to one side while I do the edits. But yeah, so yeah, they all overlap, as you know. It's it's not very linear at times, is it? You
No,
sort
it
of kind of,
isn't.
you look
I
at
have
your
to have these.
diary.
I have these little things here where I have my characters, one for each book. So I have characters do because I just forget. I
Oh
think,
yeah, I've
who?
seen those before, and I remember asking you about them, and I
Yeah.
still haven't got round to getting them. So that's a good reminder.
I couldn't be without them because they're so easy to sort of like keep and have them
Mm,
in my drawer. Whereas notebooks, I have a notebook for each book as well. Um, but I tend to write more on those things. But that's more like how many
yeah,
words today and what I've got to do and thoughts or whatever. But
yeah.
again, then I'll think, oh, which notebook did I have for that one? I'm obviously quite disorganized.
Yeah. Well, in this book, this middle book that I've just been doing the structural edits on, my editor asked me something about what the character looked like. I was thinking, I don't actually remember what what she looked like, and I thought I had to go back to the book one to see if I'd mentioned anything specific
Yes.
about this middle sister's appearance.
Yeah.
So I was like trawling through, like searching keywords, eye color, blue eyes. Did I write blue eyes? Did I write green eyes? Or
Did I call it some
so
weird
yeah,
blue?
I need those little cards
Yes, no,
to
that's
write it
they're
down.
so useful because I mean, my memory is useless. But yes, same sort of thing. It's like, I thought this character did this and think they did? No idea. I suppose our heads are always so full of trying to sort of think the next thing will work on the last thing, or as you say, you do
Yes,
in
yeah,
between different edits and different books and stuff like that. but it is
Yeah, and
fun.
I don't know about you, but when I'm writing a character, because this was another thing, she said, "Can you add a bit more description of what your character looks like?" And I was going, "No, I hadn't really thought that much because when I'm writing it, I'm seeing it from their point of view. I'm not looking at them. I'm looking through
Thought of
them.
that before.
So I never really know exactly what they look like. So that's why my character descriptions are usually in the first draft very loose because yeah, I'm just looking at it through their eyes. So unless they look in the mirror, I don't
That
ever
makes so much
see them.
sense because I mean I've had a couple of editors saying, I've got to the end of this and I've no idea what this person looks like, and I think, oh, okay, no, neither do I, and I've never even thought of that before, and that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah, because
We're writing it through their eyes, so we're not looking
yeah,
at
and
them.
we're feeling their
Yes,
emotions
it's more
and
their emotions and their
thinking
psyche,
what
isn't it?
they're thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We're
yeah,
not
rather than
worrying
what they
about
look
if they're
like.
brushing their long blonde hair or
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never thought of that before, but that makes so much sense. Yes,
yeah.
when I put in some form of description of them, it's only because I'm aware that I would, because of editors and what does this person even look like? I have no picture of this person,
Mm.
so I actually have to consciously think about that because
Yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
it's not something I would think about, and that's obviously
No.
why. Oh, yes.
So
Makes a lot.
it's not us getting old and not remembering things. It's just that
Well, I
it
don't
just
know.
hasn't
I
occurred
mean,
to us.
I think in my case, it's quite a bit of that. Yeah, definitely can't remember things. Useless. I just put it down to having so much in my head all the time that I can't remember sort
Yeah.
of a lot of things. Yeah. I have alarms on my phone I mean, so often because otherwise I'll like lose track of time and then not sort of be doing something I should be
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's exciting. So three. Oh, lovely. I think that would be really brilliant, that will, to have all three sisters' stories.
Yeah. So I've had to set them in different cities as well.
Yeah, I was
So
going to
the
ask
next one,
actually, yeah.
yeah. So the next one is in Paris, which is where I feel quite
Lovely.
comfortable with because I've done a few Paris books.
Love Paris.
But the third one is in Warsaw. So I don't, I don't know much about that. Again, I came to historical fiction by accident, so
Oh,
I've had
did
to do
you?
everything. Yeah, I've had to do all my research sort of on the run as I'm going. I really didn't know much, and I couldn't just keep saying to my husband, "So what happened in that year?" But
So was that
yeah.
something that your publisher asked you to do, or was it you came up for an idea for a book, or?
Well, I had an idea for a book. So basically, I'd been writing thrillers, and my dad was very ill, and he died, and
Oh,
I
sorry.
just couldn't write anything or read anything that was dark. It was
Yeah.
just wasn't in the right place for it. So I literally, it sounds so cliched. Literally woke up with this idea one day, and I knew the complete story. And it was based because my dad had dementia, so it was based around a character who had dementia, and it was going to be a contemporary, I suppose, women's fiction. It was almost like sort of therapy for me writing it, really. So it's about a family, the granddaughter and the great granddaughter, and a little bit of it, backstory, was set during the Second World War. And it was about, a lost love in the Second World War. But it literally featured just a few chapters. Um, so sent it off, made and, put it out in submission. And the publisher that came back, they said, "Oh, we love it, but we really want more. We want it to be more dual timeline. We need more historical fiction in it." So that's how I came to write a dual timeline where it's half and half contemporary and the other half was historical. And then I think the next three or four were dual timelines. And then I moved into complete historical fiction after that. So yeah, so I kind of, as I say, I
Mm.
slipped into it and I was laughing with my friend because I didn't even do history at school. I gave it up sort of when I was like 13 years old. My knowledge was very, very limited. I did geography, which I failed, so I obviously wasn't a geography person. So yeah, so that's how I came to it. Wasn't anything planned. It just kind of like it just evolved organically, as they say.
But that
But I
was a
do
very
enjoy
beautiful book.
writing
I
it.
remember reading that book. It was really
Mm,
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so
Oh
I think it's
gosh,
quite
that's
cathartic.
And now I suppose you're well into writing your historicals. And I know that when I write, so what I have been doing up until now is writing one historical and then maybe a couple of contemporary romances. And it's quite nice. So you have the quite sort of dark, although I will go a lot darker, my publisher won't let me for my historicals. But it's actually quite then refreshing to do something a little bit lighter and write a contemporary romance, also that not having a load of research for as well. And then
Yes.
I'm also excited to then go back to writing an historical as well. Do you find that at
Yes.
all?
Yeah, definitely. It's like sort of a palate cleanser, isn't it? And I do really
Yeah,
enjoy writing my historicals, and I feel very comfortable writing them. And I feel I've found quite a nice corner to write in, if you like.
yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, I do like going and doing some other things as well. So I'm also writing a romantic suspense, which is for no one except
At
myself
your
at the
spare
moment.
time. Do you sleep?
But I've had the idea for a long time, and so I just go back to it. It's just like my comfort food. So
Lovely.
yeah, so
I,
yeah, so I do like being able to switch and not being
yes,
stuck in
I
one
do.
genre.
It is, like you say, it's a palate cleanser. It's nice, isn't it? And then when I'm writing whatever I'm writing, I'm always looking forward to then going back to whatever it is that I'm then missing. So yes,
Yes,
I
yeah,
think that's
definitely,
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the trouble. A lot of authors find, you kind of get um into one sort of genre, don't you? And it's very
yeah,
difficult to uh, move out of it. I mean, even World War Two, I keep thinking, oh, I'd like to move out of the war, but it's still very popular era to write in. And my publisher said there's still so much demand for it.
yeah.
So
Oh, thank
yeah,
heavens.
yeah,
I love reading that though. I love reading that. Love writing it too. I think, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think there's something about, going back in that time and trying to imagine how people felt. And I
mm,
love it, really love it. And because of research, I've learned so much as well. It's like, I
oh
never
God,
knew
yeah,
that. It's amazing. I mean, even because mine, a lot of them are set here in Jersey. So about the occupation stuff, which, I mean, I grew up walking near all these bunkers and I grew up hearing all these stories, but I don't know, they were just part of everyday life. And when you start looking and think,
mm,
oh, that was really horrific. It's like people
yeah,
cope with that. And it really brings it to life, doesn't it, when you sort of delve
yes,
into it? And you have
yeah,
I sort of found a much deeper sort of respect for these people who actually cope with all of that and came out,
yes,
sane and able to, and people didn't have the sort of support that you would have nowadays,
no,
or you would hope to
no,
have nowadays.
no.
Yeah,
I know. It's exactly what I feel. When I read some of the like true accounts, and you have to think that actually happened to someone.
yeah,
Someone actually did that. It's not me writing it safely
yeah.
80 years later. In the comfort of my room. Someone actually did all that. One
It
of
defies
my
belief
books.
sometimes, doesn't it?
Mm, yeah, one of my books. I in France, we've got a house in France. So when we go there, in the next village, there's a memorial to four men who were executed by the Germans for their part in the resistance, and their names are on there. And I always wanted to look up their names, and there wasn't anything online for years and years.
Wow.
Because France have, not always, quite up on the internet as we were then,
Yeah.
but there's a lot more on it now. And I found the story of the four men, and one was actually a father and son. So when I was writing the book that was set then, that's when I was thinking, so this is what would have happened to those men and that young man, the son. It's not just fiction, it really is
Yeah.
being respectful to what, their story and what they went through, um, and how just people, everyday life in France were affected so deeply by the occupation.
Awful.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that by bringing these stories to life, I mean, I had so many people contact me about, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, or didn't even know where Jersey was, a lot of them, but this sort of thing, and did not know these sorts of things happened. And then people start looking into it, and stories are then people then find their own stories because they're now have this interest triggered, and they find out that all these different stories, and then people are remembered even more about things. I think it all helps, really, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. And I think also, um, because although we're moving further and further away in time from the war, I think people are finding it even more important to remember and make a record of things. And I think that goes back to what I was saying when I originally couldn't find anything about these
Yeah.
four men. It was just a memorial in this tiny little village. So it's only in recent years that their story has then been put on the internet. So it'll be there forevermore now. So
Which is a good
yeah,
thing.
I think yeah, definitely, yeah. So that that's I think as we get older as well, we sort of have more appreciation and respect for what happened. Whereas when we're young and just children studying it at school or just being told
Yeah.
stories, it's different, isn't it?
It is different. You're also being made to study something, whereas with this, we can choose something we're interested in.
Mm,
And I
yeah,
think we are so
definitely.
lucky now with the internet that we can look at this now and then flick at that and look at that.
Mm,
It's so much
yeah,
easier to find things.
yeah,
Although I
definitely.
still
Yeah.
love old books. We have a gentleman here does these massive book sales there, secondhand books, some very old books, and that's why I found an awful lot of research books. And he does it to raise money for Guide Dogs for the Blind, which is brilliant. And I've got some enormous, but I love them. I love sitting there and going through these things, and might never use
Yeah.
anything, but it's so fascinating.
No,
Yeah,
yeah. And sometimes it's just like sort of absorbing the atmosphere
yeah.
that you read about, isn't it? And you may not use something directly, but somewhere in your subconscious, you've sort of retained that information, and then
Yes.
it comes out on the page
Yes,
in
because
some
most of
form or
our
another.
research, of course, is just not used, is it?
Yes, yeah,
I think but I think, like you say, the fact that we have taken this in, and when you're then sort of writing the book, uh, there's some sort of sense of atmosphere, I think, that then comes across of that time
mm,
through the writing, because of
yeah,
what you've taken in and absorbed, and what shocked you or made you happy or surprised
yeah,
you or whatever. Yeah. Oh, fascinating. I love the idea. So I think well, a lovely idea with the three sisters. It'll be, and I also love the idea of a standalone as well. Yeah, that's
yes.
brilliant.
Well, it was a cheeky little pitch, really, because I just
Why
pitched this
not?
one. I just pitched this one book about the midwife in Berlin, and then I just put a little thing on the end. I could, of course, make it three books about the two other sisters that were mentioned. And my editor was like, "Tell me more." And I was like, "Oh God, right now I've got to think of their stories." She said, "What will their stories be about?" I thought, I haven't even got that far. It's just a little cheeky one-liner I put on the end. So that's how it came about being a three-book series.
You've got to do that. I did exactly the same with my Mrs. Boots series when my
Oh
publisher
yes,
asked me to write about Florence Boots, who's her husband was Jessie Boots from Boots the Chemist, which obviously we all know in the UK.
yeah,
And she wanted me to write a book about it, and I said, "But there's so much information. Couldn't I write three?" I said, "If you got enough." I had so much stuff,
yeah.
and that was quite difficult because it's like, what do I write? It was actually easier to break it down to three, but then the first book, there was so little I had to sort of go on. The second book, there was so much information I didn't know what to do with myself. The third book was set during the First World War, so it was much more my comfort zone
Mm,
because I'd written a few books of
yeah.
that, and I could sort of manage that far more easily. So yeah, it was a learning curve.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you've had
why not?
new covers for those recently, have you, Deb? Did I see that they got new
Yes,
covers?
they've changed the
Yes,
covers
yeah.
and also the order. So because the first book, it's a very gentle sort of book, the first book, and very not much happens. And I think my readers sort of read it, and thought, well, this is very different to what she's written before, and I don't think we'll like this. So that's like a bonus book at the end now. So
Mm,
it's in a different order. So the what was the second book is now the first book because so much
yeah.
happens in it. Then there's the second book, which was the third book, and then if you want to read how they met and fell in love and whatever, you can read that
Oh,
final
nice.
book, and it makes
Oh,
much more
that's nice
sense.
they've done
Yes,
it.
so they changed the
Yeah.
covers as well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So did you find it hard writing about the First World War, or
First
was
World
that
War,
quite,
no, because
yeah.
I'd already done that with the poppy field and with in the Beekeepers' War. So I'd done that before, and I've always been fascinated by the First World War, and I
Mm,
did my own One Broken Faces. I absolutely was. I was so that's got me into actually writing. Was that really? I was so fascinated because my great grandfather was in the cavalry, but we knew
yeah.
we didn't have a photo of him and stuff. So I did a lot of research and totally got into that.
Mm,
Um, the difficulty was, funnily enough, the one that became the first book, because that was set in the started in the 1880s, so Victorian era, which I hadn't gone that far back before. So that was quite different. You know, the clothes were different, quite a lot was different then. So, and also it was the first time I'd written about a real person.
yeah.
But I was very lucky that one of her great granddaughters met me with her own daughter and then granddaughter, and gave me
Oh,
personal photos and lots of
goodness.
booklets and all sorts of things. It was terrifying because I'm so scared to upset the family by doing anything
Wow.
wrong.
Oh, but
Um,
that's gold, isn't it? That is
yeah,
gold
they were
research.
amazing. They were absolutely amazing. And in the book, because so little happened in that first book, I created a fictional character all the way through. And right, I met them afterwards, and we had lunch and gave them copies of the books, and they loved them, which was such a relief. But they all thought that that fictional character was real, which was wonderful that they thought she was so real. But
Yeah.
also, I then had to tell them, actually, no, she's not real.
Oh,
But they were very happy with what I did, which was, I can't tell you how relieved I was. I was so terrified writing about a real person.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I did have a real uh, local family in one of my books. They weren't in for very long, but during the Second World War, because I lived near RA, well, what was RAF Tangmere down near Chichester in West Sussex. So
okay.
that was quite a key airfield during the Second World War.
Wow.
And a few miles up the road, there was a family. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but he worked for MI6, and they took in French airmen who had been shot down injured, and
Wow.
yeah, used to sort of like wait until they were recovered, and then they'd be flown back out to France. Um, and it's kind of like a safe house. And they used to take the French airmen down the pub and things like that. It's amazing. But the story that the wife wrote a little book about it. Anyway, so in one of my books, I've included my character going to stay with his family, and one of the
Oh, that's
children
brilliant.
playing with the real life son. And I was thinking, God, I hope they don't mind. But I said to my editor, so do I need to go and like check with them first? And she
Yeah.
said no, because you've stuck to the facts. Okay, you know, obviously I didn't have my characters aren't real, but you've said nothing negative. It's all done
Yes.
in a positive thing, and it's out. um you know, she's written a book about it. It's out in the public
The
domain. The
public, yeah.
information is that, yeah. So she said, no, you're okay. So
I think the
yeah,
most
but
important thing, like you say, is you're not saying anything negative. You're not trying to sort of make these people look bad publicly or anything like
no,
that. You're treating them with the respect they deserve. And I think,
yes, yeah.
that's obviously the most important thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I don't know how long our time's going to be, but I have a horrible feeling it'll
Yes,
be cutting off at some
probably.
point soon. Thank you so much for joining me, Sue.
Yeah,
I've
no,
loved
thank
chatting
you.
with you, and I can't wait
Yeah,
to read
thank
your
you,
next
Debs.
book.
Yes,
My
no,
pleasure.
thank you.
Hope you have a
Take
lovely
care.
rest of your day and hope it's not too
Yeah,
hot.
and
Lovely to
you.
chat to you. Thanks, Sue.
And you. Bye.
Bye.